Welcome to Thez Nutz Garage, and today we're going to be back out here working on the 2014 Ford Fusion. And as you can see, we're going to be changing the oil and transmission fluid. Alrighty, like I said in the intro, what we're going to be doing today is changing the oil in this 2014 Ford Fusion Titanium, and it has a 2.0 Ecoboost engine in it. Now this car has just recently turned 100,000 miles, and it has always been serviced by a Ford dealership. I've never changed the oil in this car, never changed the transmission fluid, any of that stuff. So as it's reached 100,000 miles, I figured I'll start trying out some other products to see how they work in this engine, since it's getting some higher life on it. So what I've chosen to do today, and this is not a sponsored video by Amsoil, I have bought these products on my own, out of my own pocket. And what I have on the hood of this car is, first I have my oil, which is a 5W30 Signature Series oil, and then I have the transmission fluid, automatic transmission fluid for this car that is comparable to what comes in this car from the factory, and it's supposed to be even better than that. I also have an engine flush that we need to flush out this engine with the old oil, get all that flushed out. We have engine flush for that, and I also have some fuel additives. One is to help to clean the injectors and things like that, and the other one's an upper cylinder lubricant product, and we're going to be putting that in the engine. Now the first video that I'm doing today is just simply on the oil change, and then I'll do one on the transmission, and then I'll have one where I replace the fuel filter and I add these additives into the gas. That's going to be the first 3 videos in the series on this car, and then after that we'll have some where we go into changing the engine coolant, probably the brake fluid and things like that as we go along with this 100,000 mile services on this particular car. Alrighty, so now we're fixing to do this oil change on this 2014 Ford Fusion Titanium with the 2.0 Ecoboost motor. Said that like 3 times, but there you go, you got it again. So what I first have to do during this process is I have to get a sample of the oil that's in the car right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain some of the oil out. I'm going to put it in this little container, and then what I'm going to do is I have a test kit. I'm going to pour some of that oil into this test tube and send it off to Amsoil, and what they're going to do is test the oil that's in the car right now. So then what I'm going to do is when this car hits 15,000 miles, and I'm skeptical of going that far on an oil change, but I'm going to keep my eye on it. This oil is supposed to go 25,000 miles, and the filter is 15,000, so I should be good, but I am skeptical. So after I do that very first oil change, I'm going to take a sample of that oil, send it off to Amsoil, and let them send it back to me. So what I'll have is a comparison before Amsoil and after Amsoil, and I'll be able to put that out on these videos, and you'll be able to judge it for yourself. Now after I do that, what I have to do, since we're going to this Amsoil product, which is a fully synthetic oil, is I need to flush the engine, and I have this engine flush right here. It says engine flush, transmission flush right here. We're going to add this to the oil, let the car idle for 15 minutes, and then after it idles for 15 minutes, we'll change the oil like we normally do. So here's one thing, the Amsoil filter here, there's the part number EA15K51. That 15K means 15,000 mile oil filter. This is, I believe, Amsoil, see, 15,000 mile change interval right there, and it has some other stuff on how great it is on the back side of the box. You can see that if you want. Has the says if you're gonna, their warranty is if you're gonna use the warranty, it has to be their oil filter, probably their oil, and you have to make sure you do the engine flush and all that. Now one thing I like about this oil filter is when you take it out of the package, it's in this wrapper. Now I like that because it tells me that everything inside this oil filter is clean, nobody's tampered with it. And kind of why that matters to me is because if you go in Walmart, any AutoZone, any parts store, Target, wherever they sell oil filters, and they come just in a box, you really don't know what moron was in there messing around by putting stuff inside of here. Even if you buy one like that, always check in this center hole to make sure that there's no debris in there. Because the way the oil filter is, the oil comes in these holes here, goes on the outside of the filter, goes through the media, and comes out this big hole back in the engine. So if somebody just puts something directly in there and you don't catch it, that's going to go directly into your engine, and there's no telling what kind of damage it can do. So always, when you're doing an oil filter, check inside of that hole. That's what I like about this filter, because I know that it has not been opened since it came from the manufacturer. And the last part of the oil change is our oil. Now this is a says 75% more wear protection. Signature Series 100% synthetic motor oil. It is a 5W30, which is what this car calls for. And it says up to 25,000 miles protection, or 1 year, whichever comes first. It's got a lot of stuff on the back. Now what I'll do is, if you want to see all the technical specs on this oil right here, you can probably just go to amsoil.com, find this oil on there, and it's going to give you all the what's in it. I can imagine how it performs, all their tests, because it's got a lot of stuff back here about all that. So if you want to know all the specs on the oil, because I'm not an oil scientist, go to amsoil.com. I guess first things first is we need to take this splash shield out from underneath the car. We're going to need to do this for both the transmission oil fluid change and this oil change. Looks like there's about 5 of these screws across the front, and then we have 2 in the very back here. So we'll remove those, and we'll get this splash guard down. Alrighty, so now I'm underneath the car, and if you look right up here, that's the oil filter, which is facing down, which I like them when they're facing down like that. It just makes them so when you drain them, they don't leak as much fluid. And then right here is going to be our drain plug for our engine oil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get me out a sample of this oil, then I'm going to put that plug back in, and then we're going to start the car and let it run for 15 minutes, so that way we can put our flush in. Now I have ran this car this morning for a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, this is a brand new bucket that I have right here. It is there's nothing inside of it. It's perfectly clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drain a little bit of the oil in here, so that way I can pour it in that other little jug, so that way I can get it tested. This is a 15 millimeter socket. All you got to do is just kind of like I did, put your ratchet on it, tap it a little bit, it'll come loose. I'm hoping I don't have to pull this all the way out to get enough oil to put in this for a sample. And usually when you do this, you are going to get dirty. So be prepared. What I'm going to do is, before I start this engine up, I'm going to go get my test kit and make sure that I do have enough fluid for this. Alrighty, so I had enough fluid for the oil sample. So what we got to do next is add this flush to the engine and let it run for 15 minutes. What I want to do now is just have a video where we can hear it running before we put the Amsoil. Alrighty, so now it's been about 15 minutes, and we're going to go ahead and drain the rest of the oil out of the car. And we let the car idle for 15 minutes, so that way all that engine flush can do its magic. So when you're doing this, caution, very hot oil is fixing to come out of this car. So now you do have the option of, when you do this, you could wait an hour, let the oil cool down, and then drain all your oil out. But let's live life on the edge. So I got on these gloves. We're going to let this hot oil flow out of here. Try not to drop your bolt here down in your oil when you do this. But if you do, you know, I have a magnet I can put in there to get it out. So my threads are always out, or all the way out. Windy today. That'll be a mess I gotta clean up. So we're just going to let this drain out the rest of the way, and then what we'll do is we'll pull our oil filter out. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tighten up this bolt here on into the oil pan. It has a O-ring gasket on it, so you don't have to put any thread sealer on it. But just snug it up pretty good. Don't go too crazy. That's a steel bolt. That's an aluminum oil pan. If you're not careful, you'll strip that thread out. So just tighten it up, but don't go too crazy with it. Now what I'm going to do is my oil filter's right here. I'm going to kind of wipe it down. Once again, this is going to be hot, so when you're doing this, be aware of that. I don't have an oil filter wrench, and I'm hoping they didn't put this on super tight. Yeah, it's pretty loose. So what I'm going to do is just kind of loosen it up a little bit. As soon as I start loosening it, there's going to be some fluid come out of it, and it's kind of windy, so I'm going to try to catch all of it in this pan here. Catch as much as I possibly can. That's what I'm going to do real quick, is I'm just going to kind of wipe everything down. I'm also wanting to check, make sure that my gasket for my oil filter is still on my oil filter, not stuck to the block. So I'm just going to wipe all this oil off of the block and try to not have a big mess going on. So I have my oil filter, my Amsoil filter down here. What I'm gonna do now, I've already put a little bit of oil in it, about halfway. I filled it up, and in the very top of it, which you can't see, is a little bit of the clean oil. I'm just gonna run that around the top part of this gasket. So that way, as I tighten this up, it doesn't put that gasket in a bind and cause it to come loose or create where you'd have an issue with it leaking. Trying to get my hands wiped off pretty good, because like I said, I don't have a filter wrench. I've got to tighten this up by hand, and I want to be able to tighten it up as much as I can. Alright, so that's pretty tight. What we'll do now is we'll have to put the splash guard back on the bottom, but we also need to put the oil in the top of the car. So let's get on that and we'll fill this oil up. Alright, so now we're fixing to just pour our Amsoil 5W30 in our car. Now, this car, it says, takes 5.7 quarts of oil, including what's in the oil filter. So what I did is I got 6 quarts, but I got a gallon because it was cheaper. So if you buy it by the gallon, it's cheaper. If you buy it by the drum, it's cheaper. But I got a gallon and 2 quarts. So what we're going to do is pour this in there first, and I'm going to put about 5.5 quarts in it, and then when I'll run it to town, come back, I'll check my oil, and then I'll add a little bit to it to make sure that it's where it needs to be on the dipstick. I always like to underfill something and then top it off and overfill it and have to go through the hassle of draining it out of the bottom of the car. I used this quart right here when I filled up partially the oil filter. So I know when I put this in there, that's going to be a total of 5 quarts. All right, and most of your quarts of oil, in case you didn't know, have this on the side. This is ounces and liters. We're just gonna go with half a bottle, which is gonna be 5. This is 10 ounces or whatever. We're just gonna go with about half of the bottle. A little bit more. That's about half. So what we're going to do now is I'll let this sit for a minute, then we'll start the car up and see how it sounds. Now what I'll do is after I do my test drive and come back, I'll get a video of how it sounds then, so that way I can make sure this oil's had enough time to circulate through the engine. Now today you've seen I've been using some of these Amsoil products. And what I would like to do is when you become a preferred member of Amsoil, which I did, because when you do that you get like 25% off your order, and then free shipping if it's over a certain amount. And I will post all of that when I do a breakdown cost of what these products cost me versus what I'm paying now, and how that's beneficial if you want to continue to use these Amsoil products. I have multiple cars, so I'll be ordering them from them pretty regularly. Now, when you become a preferred customer, and this isn't a push because at this point I am not sponsored by Amsoil, if you see this code that I'm going to put right here, what that does is if you go to amsoil.com and you order something and you put in that code, that's a way for you to support Thez Nutz Garage. And when you do that, I get I think it's 500 points per order. And what that does is basically give you $10 that you can spend in their store. And every time somebody makes a purchase, I'll be able to take those points and use it towards some of my builds, like my 78 F350 or my 94 F150 and some other cars that we're going to be getting in the future. So if you see this code and you're going to go to Amsoil and buy something, please put in that number, because that's one more way to help support Thez Nutz Garage. Alright, so that's basically how you change the oil in this 2014 Ford Fusion. Now we did use some Amsoil 5W30 oil, and all we have to do is just put the splash guard back underneath the car and we're going to be all ready and set to go. Now if you like the video, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe also. And also comment about Amsoil products if you've ever used them, what your favorite oil is, whatever you want to comment. It doesn't matter to me. Maybe I did something wrong. You want to tell me how to set me straight. So comment down below, and y'all have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.